Well, hello again. We are coming back together to do chapter 20 and 21 in Genesis. I'm glad you joined us. We're coming to you from our headquarters in Flower Bluff, Texas. Just a FYI, they are building a fence next door, which is great, but we may hear some of it. You never know. But that's okay. We're going to move forward because we're here to find out what the Word of God actually says and to share that with other people. So today, we're going to read chapters 20 and 21 of Genesis in the New Living Translation. I'm reading from the Immersed Bible, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. So let's jump right into chapter 20 of Genesis. It says, Abraham moved to the Negev and lived for a while between Kadesh and Shur, and then he moved on to Gerar. While living there as a foreigner, Abraham introduced his wife Sarah by saying, "She is my sister." So King Abimelech of Gerar sent for Sarah and had her brought to his palace. But that night God came to Abimelech in a dream and told him, "You are a dead man, for that woman you have taken is already married." But Abimelech had not slept with her yet. So he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Didn't Abraham tell me she is my sister?" And she herself said, "Yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence. My hands are clean." In the dream, God responded, "Yes, I know you are innocent. That's why I kept you from sinning against me, and why I did not let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, and he will pray for you, for he is a prophet. Then you will live. But if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and all your people will die." Abimelech got up early the next morning and quickly called all his servants together. When he had told them what had happened, his men were terrified. Then Abimelech called for Abraham. "What have you done to us?" he demanded. "What crime have I committed that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of this great sin? No one should ever do what you have done. Whatever possessed you to do such a thing?" Abraham replied, "I thought, this is a godless place. They will want my wife and will kill me to get her. She really is my sister, for we both have the same father, but different mothers, and I married her. When God called me to leave my father's home and to travel from place to place, I told her, 'Do me a favor. Wherever we go, tell the people that I am your brother.' Then Abimelech took some of his sheep and goats and cattle and male and female servants, and he presented them to Abraham. He also returned his wife Sarah to him. Then Abimelech said, 'Look over my land and choose any place where you would like to live.' And he said to Sarah, 'Look, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all these witnesses. This is to compensate you for any wrong I may have done to you. This will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is cleared.' Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants, so they could have children. So the Lord had caused all the women to be infertile because of what happened with Abraham's wife, Sarah. So basically, what we have here is Abraham was a bit of a schemer. He liked to scheme a bit. That was kind of his thing. But he stopped in Gerar, and that would become known as Philistia, the land of the Philistines, which we call them Palestinians now. That's just Greek for Philistine. But the Gaza Strip, and if you go back to my map video, you will see the Gaza Strip in there. That's what this area is. But he's referring to his sister, his wife as his sister, and this is just fear. I mean, plain and simple, he's just a guy. Abimelech too is a kind of a title. It means my father is king. So Sarah is about 90 years old. The king was trying to make an alliance with Abraham. Now, some of us have read this story and thought, well, why would he want a 90-year-old woman? Well, there's a couple of factors here. None of the women there were fertile at the time. God had ceased that for whatever reason. And so most of what you did was make alliance with other kings. Part of that process was taking on a wife from his family, and then that brought the families together, and that caused the alliance to happen. So that's why he would be interested in a 90-year-old woman. Not that there's not 90-year-old women that are very, very pretty, but that might not have been the case here. And the dream was just a standard way God used to communicate with people. It was pretty standard back then. Abimelech, though he was a pagan, he didn't worship the God of Israel. He had no problem dealing with the spiritual world. He wanted that. He was what we would probably describe as a spiritualist. He was looking for it. He just didn't recognize the one true God. He was aware he was talking to a God. He just didn't know which one. So Abimelech added further wealth to Abraham and asked him to stay, because remember, the goal was the alliance. He didn't really want him to leave. He wanted him to stay and help build some of his kingdom to some extent. So that's chapter 20. Let's jump right into chapter 21. It says, the Lord kept his word and did for Sarah exactly what he had promised. She became pregnant, and she gave birth to a son for Abraham in his old age. This happened in just the time God said it would. And Abraham named their son Isaac. 8 days after Isaac was born, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. And Sarah declared, God has brought me laughter. All who hear about this will laugh with me. Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse a baby? Yet I have given Abraham a son in his old age. When Isaac grew up and was about to be weaned, Abraham prepared a huge feast to celebrate the occasion. But Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and her Egyptian servant Hagar, making fun of her son, Isaac. So she turned to Abraham and demanded, get rid of that slave woman and her son. She is not going to share in the inheritance of my son Isaac. With my son Isaac. I won't have it. This upset Abraham very much because Ishmael was his son. But God told Abraham, do not be upset over the boy and your servant. Do whatever Sarah tells you. For Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. But I will make a nation of the descendants of Hagar's son, because he is your son too. So Abraham got up early the next morning, prepared food and a container of water, and strapped them on Hagar's shoulders. Then he sent her away with their son, and she wandered aimlessly in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water was gone, she put the boy in the shade of a bush. Then she went and sat by herself about 100 yards away. I don't want to watch the boy die, she said, as she burst into tears. But God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven. Hagar, what's wrong? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Go to him and comfort him, for I will make a great nation from his descendants. Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well full of water. She quickly filled her water container and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy as he grew up in the wilderness. He became a skillful archer, and he settled in the wilderness of Paran. His mother arranged for him to marry a woman from the land of Egypt. That's obviously important. About this time, Abimelech came with Phicol, his army commander, to visit Abraham. God is obviously with you, helping you in everything you do, Abimelech said. Swear to me in God's name that you will never deceive me, my children, or any of my descendants. I have been loyal to you. Now swear to me that you will be loyal to me and to this country where you are living as a foreigner. Abraham replied, yes, I swear to it. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well that Abimelech's servants had taken by force from Abraham's servants. This is the first I've heard of it, Abimelech answered. I have no idea who is responsible. You have never complained about this before. Abraham then gave some of his sheep, goats, and cattle to Abimelech, and they made a treaty. But Abraham also took 7 additional female lambs and set them off by themselves. Abimelech asked, why have you set these 7 apart from the others? Abraham replied, please accept these 7 lambs to show your agreement that I dug this well. Then he named the place Beersheba, which means well of the oath, because that was where they had sworn the oath. After making their covenant at Beersheba, Abimelech left with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned home to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and there he worshiped the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham lived as a foreigner in Philistine country for a long time. So about a quarter of a century has passed since Genesis 12, when Yahweh made this promise to Abraham. And this is where versions matter, because in the complete Jewish version of chapter 21, verse 2 says, Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the very time God said to him. And in the New Living Translation, it says she became pregnant. The wording is more important, because she wasn't just with child. I know this isn't for children, but if your children are listening, he and Sarah actually had sex. That's important, because this was a miracle of his doing, but it required their effort. And we'll see some of that really becoming a big deal later on. But this is where translations matter sometimes. It's good to just check it every once in a while. So Abraham's 100, Sarah's 90. Ishmael is about 15. And of course, he's taunting out Isaac because he thinks he's the main guy and he was first. And, the older brother usually acts that way, or older sister. We have another of the divisions, selections, and elections of God, though. Ishmael and Isaac are separated. Sarah could not order Ishmael out, but she could banish Hagar, because she was Sarah's handmaiden. So Ishmael and Hagar went from being wealthy with authority to basically being homeless. God promised to supply the portion taken from Ishmael. And Ishmael received even more, really, than Isaac. But Ishmael could not be the promised son, because that's the decision that God had made. And God had decided the covenant promise was to Isaac, not Ishmael. There's no promise of land, just people groups. Hagar and Ishmael became desert dwellers, and this is the area that would become the root of all Arab nations. They all started kind of right there. Some parallels between Isaac, the son of promise, and the Messiah, the ultimate son of promise. There's a lengthy time between the promise of Isaac and the promise of Messiah and that actually happening. So there's a length of time there. The births of Isaac and Yeshua were both miraculous. Isaac's because of his mother's age and dead womb, and then Yeshua because Mary was a virgin. Isaac's name was decided by God before he was born. Yeshua's was too. God set a precise appointed time for Isaac's birth, just as he did for Jesus. And Abimelech simply wanted to settle the issue before God again threatened him. So all of those parallels between Isaac and the Messiah, Abimelech and the Pharaoh of Egypt, and the Pharaoh, or the kings in Judea, was he took the warning and acted on it. Abimelech did. He didn't fight with it. He didn't argue with God. He didn't just push against it. He just acted on it. He believed God. So that's chapters 21 or 20 and 21. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to share, leave a comment, like, heart it, thumbs up it, whichever way you do it. That helps more people see it. And don't forget, we're on Spotify. I'm not on Spotify, but this is on Spotify. So God bless. We'll talk to you soon.